investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signaturetv. News in your pocket.
Announced that public submissions on the proposed National Policing Bill were closed by 5 p.m. on Thursday, August 13. The Chief of Staff to the President and Chairman of the Presidential Working Group on the National Policing Bill, Femi Gbajabiamila, disclosed this on Wednesday, said the consultation was designed to incorporate the experiences and professional expertise of Nigerians into the proposed legislation. He said the submissions were particularly useful in addressing concerns about political interference, oversight, police misconduct, and intelligence sharing between federal and state police. But Gbajabiamila also stressed that the proposed state police system must contain strong safeguards to prevent governors from using the force against political opponents, protesters, journalists, minority communities, and other citizens. He noted that a consultation would not replace the role of the National Assembly, which will retain the power to scrutinize, amend, reject, or pass the bill when transmitted. Femi Gbajabiamila said although state police could bring policing closer to communities and improve responses to local security challenges, its proximity to state governments raised legitimate concerns about political interference and abuse of power. President Bola Tinubu has assented to the Nigerian Ports Economic Regulatory Agency Bill 2026, paving the way for the establishment of a dedicated economic regulator for Nigeria's port sector. The development was disclosed by the Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Shippers Council, Pius Akuta, in a post on his Facebook page, where he expressed appreciation to the President for assenting to the legislation. Although details of the assent and implementation framework were not immediately available at press time, development marks a significant milestone in Nigeria's long-standing efforts to establish a statutory economic regulatory framework for the port industry. The NPERA legislation has been in the works for several years, with successive national assemblies attempting to establish a dedicated port economic regulator following the concession of Nigerian ports. The federal government had in 2014 designated the Nigerian Shippers Council as the interim economic regulator of the ports, pending the enactment of a substantive law. The proposed legislation seeks to give the port economic regulator stronger legal backing to oversee economic activities in the sector. Akuta previously described the proposed NPERA regime as a transition towards a more structured and efficient port regulatory system, saying the legislation would establish a strong and independent regulatory framework with enforceable legal powers. The Senate's right to passage followed the rescission of its earlier decision on legislation after a review identified legal and procedural issues requiring the correction. Amended bill subsequently moved through the legislative process again, stakeholders expressing optimism that its enactment will provide greater certainty for economic regulation at the ports. The Nsukka branch of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, has unveiled plans for two major economic events aimed at stimulating trade, investment and grassroots economic participation in ENUGU State. A correspondent, Christopher Lele, reports.
For the first time since its establishment, the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, is formally setting up a branch in Nsukka, a development the association says could strengthen the town's position as a growing commercial and investment hub. At a press conference in Nsukka, the president of NASIMA Nsukka branch, Chief Sam Otoboeze Esquire, announced the NASIMA National Council and Executive Council meeting alongside the 2026 Nsukka Trade Expo and Exhibition. The events, according to him, are designed not merely as business gatherings, but as platforms to reignite economic activity, connect businesses with opportunities, and bring development closer to rural communities.
From artisans to farmers, from farmers to lecturers to researchers, the innovators, they're going to showcase what they've got. So we're trying to build a kind of bridge, a nexus between research and enterprise, from enterprise to capital, from capital, to industry, and from industry to market. And then there's no other way to bring development to an area than going through this channel.
The Nsukka NASIMA president says deliberate efforts are being made to ensure that the Trade Expo goes beyond Nsukka's urban center, giving entrepreneurs and producers in surrounding communities an opportunity to showcase their products, access markets, and build business networks.
We're not just talking about Nsukka, we're just talking because Nsukka has a duty to contribute to the growth, the economic growth of this state. We've got to do that.
Vice President of the NASIMA Nsukka branch, Dr. Daniel Ochi, says both events are scheduled for September 15th to 20th, 2026 at Ekpo Hall, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He says the gathering is expected to attract research institutions, captains of industries, and development finance institutions, among others, creating an avenue for knowledge exchange, investment linkages, and access to funding opportunities.
Come September, from September 15th to September 20th, Nsukka shall be hosting the National Executive Council meeting and the National Council meeting of NASIMA. We want to expose the economic potentials. We want to let the small and micro industries, what we are producing, we want to showcase it to the world. So there's going to be an exhibition. We're inviting manufacturers, processors, business people who have one product or the other.
Beyond the exhibitions and meetings, NASIMA says its Nsukka initiative is about creating stronger connections between business, research, finance, and communities, with the ultimate goal of turning local enterprise into sustainable economic growth. In ENUGU, Christopher Lele, Signaturetv News.
The naira remained relatively stable against the United States dollar on Thursday in both the official Nigerian foreign exchange market and the parallel market, as traders continued to monitor foreign exchange. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria's NFEM platform showed the official exchange rate hovering around 1,367 per dollar, with the CBN benchmark rate quoted at approximately 1,366.73 to the dollar. Apex Bank describes the NFEM rate as a volume-weighted average that serves as the official exchange rate for the day. In a parallel market commonly referred to as a black market, currency dealers in major Lagos trading hubs quoted the dollar at about 1,410 naira for buying and 1,425 naira for selling on Thursday morning. Market trackers showed the street rate continue to trade at a premium to the official market. The spread between the two markets remained about 58 per dollar, reflecting persistent demand for foreign currency outside the formal banking system, despite recent improvements in official market liquidity. Analysts said the naira has been more stable in recent weeks compared with a sharp volatility recorded in late 2024 and early 2025. Historically, NFEM data indicate that official exchange rate has largely traded within the 1,360 to 1,385 range through March, July, and early August 2026. The Nigeria Customs Service has reiterated its commitment to developing strategies to address challenges affecting businesses, cross-border activities, and revenue collection in Niger State. Zonal Coordinator Zone B of the Nigerian Customs Service, Assistant Comptroller General in SICAC Omo, stated this in Minna during a continuation of a service periodic consultation and stakeholders engagement across the zone. Omo was at the Niger Kogi Area Command Headquarters in Niger State as part of their ongoing zonal oversight aimed at assessing operational readiness and strengthening the service's mandate across Zone B. During a visit, the zonal coordinator interacted with officers and personnel of the command and stakeholders in the state as part of efforts to strengthen collaboration with critical stakeholders, facilitate legitimate trade, and improve revenue collection. However, stakeholders at the meeting called on the Nigeria Customs Service to reopen the Bambana border, which they said had been closed since 2018. They argued that the prolonged closure of the border had negatively affected economic activities and legitimate trade among communities along the border. Stakeholders appealed to the Customs Service and relevant authorities to reconsider the closure and explore measures that will facilitate legitimate cross-border trade while maintaining effective border security and anti-smuggling operations. Revenue generation, SICAC commended the Niger Kogi Area Command for surpassing its revenue target of 17 million naira, noting that the command had generated about 200 million as of August 12, 2026. Said the performance demonstrated the commitment of officers and men of the command to meeting the revenue collection mandate of the service. A Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Heineken Lukbobri, said Nigeria must prioritize its domestic energy needs before meeting international obligations. Lukbobri stated this in his goodwill message at the West Africa Refined Fuel Market Conference 2026 with the theme, Funding West Africa Infrastructure and Distribution to Create a Transparent Market for Regional Price Benchmarks. The minister said the country's energy security strategy must begin with fulfilling its obligations to Nigerians, stressing that the ongoing deregulation of the downstream petroleum sector had created a framework for greater participation and accountability among industrial stakeholders. He said the conference provided an opportunity not only to discuss sustainable pricing mechanisms, but also to showcase investment opportunities and competitive advantages in Nigeria's and Africa's midstream and downstream petroleum sectors. It identified increased refining capacity, efficient distribution infrastructure, transparent pricing, and stronger regional integration as critical to building a competitive West African refined fuel market. Lukbobri added that Nigeria, as a major player in the global energy market, had an important role to play in developing an integrated West African petroleum market and positioning the continent to compete more effectively in global energy trade. The conference brought together stakeholders in the petroleum industry to examine financing, infrastructure, distribution, and pricing mechanisms for the refined fuel market across West Africa. Jericho Power plc has moved to reassure stakeholders, investors, regulators, and other stakeholders over concerns surrounding its bond repayment obligations, since reviewing its financial commitments and remains committed to resolve outstanding challenges. The company's clarification followed recent online publications raising concerns about its ability to meet its bond repayment obligations. In a statement by its company secretary, structured headquarters, Jericho Power said the current board and management had undertaken a comprehensive review and reconciliation of the company's transactions, liabilities, operational commitments, financing arrangements, and other financial obligations. The review, according to the company, is intended to ensure transparency, accuracy, and prudent financial management. Jericho Power acknowledged concerns raised by stakeholders and regulators, stating that it was actively engaging relevant parties and advisors towards resolving the issue. The company said discussions were ongoing and that it remained committed to reaching an orderly and mutual beneficial outcome. ENUGU said it will continue to provide the market with appropriate updates and material developments concerning its performance in line with applicable regulatory requirements. Development comes amid growing investor attention to the financial obligations of power generation companies, particularly their ability to service debts and maintain operations in an electricity market facing liquidity and payment challenges. Still to come, U.S. sets up task force to end birth tourism, revokes over 600 visas worldwide. And Meta says it has taken down 756,000 Australian teen accounts as ban enforcement looms. Stay with us.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But at the same time, you come in with a diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Signaturetv, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signaturetv.
The United States government has established a new interagency task force to clamp down on birth tourism, a practice where foreign nationals travel to the U.S. primarily to give birth and secure American citizenship for their children. The Birth Tourism Prevention Task Force announced that the Department of State, under President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, has already revoked over 600 visas across different regions of the world in the first round of action. The new move came after Trump signed 2 executive orders the previous week, directing federal agencies to deny visas, revoke travel authorization, and deport foreign nationals who enter the country for the purpose of giving birth. According to a fact sheet released by the Office of a Spokesperson, the move was part of a broader effort to defend the integrity of U.S. citizenship and ensure that non-immigrant visas were used only for their lawful purposes. Officials said the task force would operate globally with a mandate to review the travel and visa history of applicants, identify cases of birth tourism, revoke visas of individuals found culpable, and dismantle networks that profit from facilitating the practice. The department warned that any foreigner who willfully misrepresents the purpose of their travel or entry into the United States may be permanently ineligible for a U.S. visa or entry. Russian President Vladimir Putin visited Signaturetv, an island at the end of the Kuru chain near the island of Hokkaido, a day after major naval drills and a missile firing by allied North Korea. Moscow and Tokyo never signed a formal World War II peace treaty, as the main hurdle was the unresolved territorial dispute over the islands, which Japan calls the Northern Territories. State news agency TASS said the visit to a Yanni fish processing plant on Signaturetv was done after Putin watched the Navy drills in Russia's Far East. Japan's foreign minister protested against Putin's visit on X. Meta, the owner of Facebook and Instagram, on Thursday declared that it had taken down more than 750,000 accounts it suspected were held by Australian users under the age of 16. The world's largest social media company said it wants to comply with a law that it and other platforms are vocally opposed, just as Australia's internet regulator considering legal action against social media platforms which it believes have not done enough to enforce the ban. The company said it had deactivated 462,000 suspect Instagram accounts and 294,000 suspect Facebook accounts just before the Australian social media ban went live. Government figures and independent studies suggest that more than 8 in 10 Australian children under 16 continued using social media during the first 3 months of the ban. The Australian government has also moved to increase the maximum penalty for platforms that fail to comply with the law to $99 million. Sports now. Chelsea have set a Friday deadline for clubs interested in midfielder Enzo Fernandez to submit offers of at least £120 million. Fernandez's agent, Xavier Pastore, subsequently claimed his client was underpaid and wanted to leave after a difficult season for Chelsea. Club finished 10th in the Premier League and ended the campaign without a trophy after losing the FA Cup final to Manchester City. Real Madrid have since indicated they have no intention of signing Fernandez, leaving Manchester City as the only known potential suitor. City are yet to indicate whether they would be prepared to meet Chelsea's £120 million valuation, with the club also targeting Lille midfielder Ayoub Bouabadi. The deadline is designed to bring an end to the uncertainties around the 25-year-old before the new season begins. Chelsea believe they have given Fernandez and interested clubs around 60 days to complete a deal before they consider a fair price. New Chelsea manager Xabi Alonso has spoken to Fernandez about his future, but has declined to reveal details of the conversation. The club has made it clear that they are willing to fully reintegrate Fernandez into the squad, continue to regard him as a key player if no suitable offer arrives. Midfielder returned to Chelsea training this week for the first time under Alonso, with his future now set to be decided by Friday's deadline. The Tigers bounced back from 2 successive defeats to China by beating the host 88-77, their third and final meeting in Foshan, Guangdong Province on Wednesday, as they continue to build up to the 2026 FIBA Women's Basketball. The reigning African champions dominated from the opening quarter, racing to 32-17 lead before extending the advantage to 58-29 at half-time. China attempted to fight back in the third quarter, but Nigeria maintained control and entered the final period with a 7-1-52 lead. The host improved further in the fourth quarter, but the Tigers held on to secure an 88-77 victory and end a 3-game series with a win. And that's the wrap on Global News. I am Barry Kumar Ado. Thank you very much for watching.